So Neil, tell me a little bit about when you guys work with someone, they call or they set up an appointment to talk to you about SimplyMerit. What are usually the features that really stand out to them? What are the things that you guys hear over and over again about the benefits of SimplyMerit?
Yeah, I would say most of the people that come to us are looking to get off of either spreadsheets, managing their annual compensation cycles, or they've tried a compensation module within their HRIS. And they found it to be lacking in significant ways that make it virtually unusable for what they're trying to do. 90% of the HRIS systems out there that do have compensation modules have a significant lack of a feature that they need that people need. For instance, managing bonus and being able to provide company modifiers, individual modifiers, do prorations, those sorts of things is an area that most HRIS platform comp modules really fall short on. And that's usually where, you have people like us who, comp is everything that we do. It's our lifeblood, our reason for being in our company. Look at this and say, well, of course, yes, let's build something to address that particular gap in offerings. So, and then you have the HRIS companies that tend to be more down market, servicing up to 5,000 employee type space that don't have compensation built in. So the customers either have to find it on their own or they resort to Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets or something along those lines.
What are some other times that maybe these other systems aren't working for people? What are the other factors that really push them towards SimplyMerit?
Yeah, it's bonus is a big area. Managing equity grants, managing an annual refresh of options, RSUs, or something along those lines for companies. A lot of the comp module systems within HRIS platforms don't even touch that. Prorations is an area that they fall short on. The ability to handle multi-currency, the ability to, even in a global type setting, be able to see one holistic view of your entire company.
The other day, you mentioned, I can't even remember what platform it was, but you said basically in some modules that are maybe built into an HRIS, maybe it was ADP Workforce Now. You said essentially you can sort of do global things, but every country has its own portal or something so that you don't get a unified view. Explain that to me a little more.
Right, exactly. And that's really what we see across a lot of different type of HR platforms is ADP is an example of it. ADP's got a decent enough comp module if you're dealing just with one country. When you have multiple countries, as we understand it, each country has to be run as a separate process. So there's not one holistic view of your entire company throughout the process. No roll-up of budget throughout that entire cycle as well. So generally what we find with HRIS software products that have a comp module, usually there's a point at which you pivot away from that. And the reps will know when to pivot and look to a partner like SimplyMerit. For ADP, it's multiple countries. It's having multiple different impact factors to bonus. Needing to do equity grants. That's something that's not built into ADP. UKG has its own areas where you might pull away from their internal comp module and look for an external company and module like SimplyMerit.
Okay. You mentioned a second ago that some companies, when those modules aren't doing what they want them to do, they head towards spreadsheets. Mm-hmm. And I chuckle about this because this feels like this is true in a lot of industries, right? We go to the home rolled method of how we're going to fix this, and it works for a while, and then it stops working, and you eventually try to find some scenario that I have an actual software that does this for me. In your experience, what are those trigger points that help someone know, like, okay, the spreadsheet thing just isn't working right now. I've got to find a solution.
Yeah, usually spreadsheets are okay if you're 50 employees and you can manage it that way. You start getting up around 100, it starts to become more complicated. And really where spreadsheets fall flat is when you have many different managers that are involved in the process. You download all your comp planning data, separate out individual spreadsheets by managers, send them out. Manager calls up, said, this person doesn't report to me anymore. We actually just moved them over here. So now you have two versions of spreadsheets going to two different managers. One of the managers sends back the wrong version of the spreadsheet. Another manager doesn't like how the math works in the spreadsheet, so they make their own copy of it because you locked it down. But they find a workaround, so they send back their version of it, and the math all doesn't work. Meanwhile, senior leadership has no visibility into how the budget's being utilized. So you'll end up have one manager who on a 3% budget is driving a 9% and is going to die on the hill. And the only time that comes to light is when the comp person gets all the spreadsheets back in, and about a week before it has to go to payroll, they finally consolidate everything in and realize they're massively over budget. A tool is going to help you manage that process, eliminate errors, speed up the actual management of it, give senior leadership and comp and HR the opportunity to see and understand what's happening throughout the process, collaborate with their leaders where they need to collaborate, manage an approval process, and just really automate and simplify that whole cycle.
Tell me a little bit, you actually are part of, as the managing partner, you also do get involved in implementation at times with certain companies. And so you've got a lot of conversations with customers who work with SimplyMerit. What are the positive things that you usually hear feedback from them about what it's like working with SimplyMerit, working with your team, and so forth?
Yeah, I think some of the hallmarks or areas that we differentiate ourselves on is quick implementations and ease of use. We recognize right out of the blocks when we put together our advisory board, we brought our comp consultants from our own company into a room. This is a once-a-year tool for most managers. If you overload it with features and look at all these wonderful things that this tool can do, et cetera, you get away from the core of what needs to happen, which is spend time making good decisions about people's pay. You should be spending less time trying to figure out how to do things in the tool and whatnot and work within the tool. It should be, the 80-20 rule should be 80% of the time making good comp decisions, 20% of the time figuring out what you need to do inside of the tool. So quick implementation timeframes. We're working with a plastics company right now and got the call on, where are we at? Today is Wednesday. So this was probably Wednesday of last week. Did the demo. They said, we're not thinking we can get it done. We need to be live in about a week and a half. So we said, let's look at the tool. If it's going to fit your needs, let's push and get you live in that time frame. So our hallmark is, live in 5 days is
okay.
Definitely doable. Generally, it's a concerted effort. Your head's down during that time frame. But even with this plastics company, the gentleman there, pulled the data, got it loaded in. We've got their bonus set up. And even on one of our meetings throughout that process said, I wasn't quite ready for this. So let's push it to to Monday from Friday. So he's even taking kind of a leisurely pace and we'll be up in that, less than 2 week time frame because that's his window that he's working within.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's even on refreshes. So on an annual refresh, you're basically pulling new data, getting it in the tool, changing your dates and budgets and things like that. We did a rather large company. This is kind of funny. The lady was going on about a 6-month leave. So we're working with her replacement and she kind of got, things set up and set the stage so that when she goes on leave, everything is where she could possibly get it, short of having the tool fully loaded. She called up on a Thursday, said, Neil, I just found out that I have to have this thing loaded before I go on leave. I'm like, weren't you going on leave on Friday? And she said, yes. So we converted it to a Zoom call and literally we started it at like 4:00 and by 5:13, an hour and 13 minutes later, we had fully pulled her data out of her HRIS, loaded it in, loaded her bonus definitions. There was a lot of work that needed to happen to that data in that process going in. Totally took care of that and configured the system in less than an hour and a half, so an hour and 13 minutes. I looked at the clock, I said, we realized we just did a full refresh in an hour and 13 minutes. Now, what I don't want people to take away is that's going to be everybody's experience, but it does show that the tool is easy to use. It's not rocket science. This should not be a difficult process. We should be spending more time teaching our leaders how to make better decisions, how to have the right conversations with their employees about pay, and focusing on the outcomes, which is good pay decisions across the organization and, fair and consistent across the organization. Not so much about, well, we've got to pull this data from here and this has got to go over here. But then, and you're starting to work with all these challenges of getting a tool stood up. It shouldn't take 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks to stand up a comp tool.
Morgan HR is a compensation consulting company, and you built this tool to help compensation professionals accomplish their job. This isn't, we want to build a bunch of bells and whistles and a bunch of technical things that we get to do here and here and here. It's like, we want to help you make good decisions about compensation. The tool, just a focus on what you need to accomplish so you can get on and do other things. And I love that. That even comes across like in how you guys handle onboarding, solving people's problems. Tell me a little bit about how you guys support people after they're customers of SimplyMerit.
Yeah, great question. So we really lean into support. And if you look us up on G2, one of those software review sites, you'll see a lot of our customers are given accolades in their words and descriptions around customer support. So typically it's an onboarding call. We'll do shoulder to shoulder type implementation through 4 or 5 calls throughout whatever time period they want. If they want to take 3 weeks, 4 weeks, that's fine. If they want to do it in a week, we'll manage to that as well. Usually before go live, let's just do one last check over everything so you feel comfortable, ready to go. Support them during their cycle. Typically it's a week, 2 weeks that they're left open. And then at the end of the cycle, we're pulling their data, running it through our analytics engine that we call SimplyMerit Insights, and passing back, a board ready essentially deck of here's how your pay is being managed. And we're looking at everything from pay equity analysis to, how your senior leaders are doing and what the spread is there to where your promotions are, looking for inversion and compression issues. We're doing a lot to really help, a compensation professional look good and deliver the best that they can to their leaders and managers.
Yeah, I love that. Tell us just a little bit about how it works with SimplyMerit as the software and then Morgan HR with compensation consulting. How do those two things interact with each other over the lifetime of working with SimplyMerit?
Yeah, it's a great question. We had one customer, they're an ADP Workforce Now customer. They called up, or the rep contacted us and said, hey, we thought we could get them up and running in our module, but the way that they do bonus isn't going to work. Can we at least take a look at yours to see if it'll handle it? And oh, by the way, they need to be live in 2 weeks and it's over, kind of that Thanksgiving type time frame. So we got them, up and running and live. Yes, our bonus handled everything that they needed and wanted. A lot of hand holding, get them live, run through their cycle. Managers loved it. Senior managers loved it. Followed up and have actually done, I think, 4 different consulting projects there, everything from redoing their job grades to executive compensation to incentive compensation. So really have become kind of their go-to compensation partner, both on helping them manage their cycles with technology, but also helping them build the right infrastructure with consulting.
So what would be a reason that someone wouldn't be a good fit for SimplyMerit compensation software?
Yeah, good question. I think where we specialize is, we'll say up to 5,000 people is generally our sweet spot. We've got customers that are 10,000, 15,000, 17,000 employees. I think where a customer would outgrow SimplyMerit or just not be a good fit is if they really have complicated global type of programs where they're trying to manage to certain countries' needs and whatnot, and they're having to manage and configure each country almost separately, but still have a single overview of their entire organization. That's where some of the larger comp tools would work better in those sort of circumstances. So we'll refer them up to some of those tools if we're not a good fit.
Okay, that really makes a lot of sense. So if they're watching this video or they're reading this article and they sort of on the fence about SimplyMerit, what steps do they need to take just to satisfy their curiosity or get the information they need to figure out if SimplyMerit's the right fit for them?
Yeah, I think, just contact us at Morgan HR. If you go to our website, you can book a demo right there. Very easy to find a time on your calendar that works well. we'll do a quick Q&A to learn about, what your process is, what you're doing today, what your HR system is, how many employees, are you doing merit, bonus, equity grants, those sorts of things. And then use that information to custom tailor the demo. And we do that all on a single 45-minute call. So it's not a big commitment of time. And, if it's not the right fit, that's fine. But it's an opportunity for you to learn a little bit about us to learn a little bit about you. And because we do so many things around compensation, so it's not just around SimplyMerit, the tool, but we've got the compensation consulting and really senior, very tenured people in compensation there. We've got Comp Aware, which is helping, you teach your managers how to be good comp leaders and have the right conversations around comp with their direct reports as well. That's very, very important these days, especially with all the pay transparency laws coming out, et cetera. We can't just hide behind here's your letter, let me know if you have questions, or a Post-it note left on your desk or something like that when it comes to, your comp changes. And then we even have a group within our organization helping people to find new roles in compensation, or if you're a hiring entity, help you find the right compensation person to bring in. We call that hire comp. So as you can see, the 4 parts of our business, compensation is core of everything that we do, and it's our passion, and I think it shows through in each of those areas.
And what I appreciate about you guys is you go into these calls trying to figure out how can we actually help solve this person's problem, and I mean, that's a high value thing. So if somebody's considering, is SimplyMerit really going to be a good fit, or how do I find the best compensation software? At the very least, you would get something out of doing a demo with SimplyMerit, seeing how this particular tool could work, if it works with your system, get some understanding around maybe even some other aspects of compensation that could be effective. It's a fantastic value you guys are bringing for free, really, for someone who's trying to figure this out.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And I think it's, because comp is core to what we do, we're very passionate about it. Always open to have a conversation, be a sounding board for a quick question that you might have, and just really build up that network of comp professionals. I think there's too much of a tendency these days with all these market pricing tools, et cetera, that you buy a tool and what they give you is gospel. Well, this particular job has a range from here to here, and that's what it actually is going to be in our organization. Not realizing that each one of those tools is going to give you a different answer depending upon which one you actually happen to have. So we want to make sure that comp as a art and science lives, and it's not just here's what this particular program or a survey or something like that told us is what we should be paying in terms of ranges.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I appreciate you taking time to talk with me today about this. I'm hopeful that whoever's watching this is motivated just to go ahead and schedule a demo with you and your team, and I think it could really make a difference for them in the long run. So again, if you're watching this right now, I encourage you, jump in here, grab a demo, meet with Neil and his team. You're not going to be sorry. Even if the software is not a great fit for you, it's a great move for you. And like we said, so many people see benefit from moving from an existing module on an existing HRIS or even from spreadsheets. If that's your case, definitely schedule a demo today for SimplyMerit.